welcome to the Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is a powerhouse in sports journalism. Not only is she a host on the Women's Sports Network and Pac-12 Network, but she also co-hosts the Queens of the Court podcast with WNBA legend Sheryl Swoopes and has been published in GQ, Essence, The Ringer, and more. This year, Queens of the Court became a new podcast called The Women's Hoop Show. Thank you so much for being here today, Jordan Robinson.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Okay, so to give some backstory, you and I met at another magazine, working together as editors. And as challenging as that job could be at times, I have so many fun memories with you and just like so many happy, like funny memories from that experience. And when I started this podcast, you so generously gave me like so much of your time and gave me such great advice and tips. I still looked at the notes like to this day and still use tips like every podcast. And I do have to admit, I am a little low-key nervous to interview you because you're
my gosh, stop.
I was like going through like the things that I knew about your career, but the details that I got into, I was like, oh my God, like I'm just in awe of you. So I am so excited to do this.
Well, thank you so much. I am so excited to be on this side of the podcast mic. It's always weird to be on this side, but especially because I remember when you started the show. And so I'm so happy to be a part of it when I did not think I would be. So I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, you have ties to OC. Okay, well, but you grew up in Sacramento.
Yes.
So how did your love for basketball start?
Oh my gosh. Well, my love for basketball started because of my brother. I am the youngest and I have an older brother, and anything that my older brother did, I wanted to do. And that included playing basketball. We had a hoop outside of our, front of our house. And I was like, well, this is what my brother's doing. So I guess this is going to be my favorite thing in the world now. And it turned out it was. I loved it. I loved being a part of a team. I remember my first team was on a co-ed team. I was 5. We had t-shirts. We didn't even have jerseys yet. And there was this boy on a team and he would not pass me the ball. He was such a ball hog. And I knew this is my first team ever, Chelsea. And I'm like, you have to pass me the ball. Like, you have to share the ball. So that's where I like to say that my start for equality in women's sports started on my very first team at 5 years old. But since then, I just really fell in love with it. I love being competitive. I love everything about the sport of basketball and the idea that you're a team and you have a coach. And my dad was my coach for so much growing up. So just the love for the sport really started from those early days.
That's so cool. Also, I love that you looked up to your older brother like that. That's so sweet.
Yes.
Well, I also remember back when we were working at the magazine, you talked about how much you loved magazines growing up. Can you talk a bit about how your love for storytelling came together?
Yeah, so I used to collect magazines when I was younger. I subscribed to 17 and Essence and all of those girly pop magazines. Yes. And I would just save them for not only for different mood boards or my own, before Pinterest was out there, I was making my own mood boards with the magazine clippings, but just because I loved how they would tell a story based off of the glossiness of the pages, through the fashion, through the photo shoot, and the words, how it all came together in this design piece. So that was really special to me. But the idea of storytelling really started when I was a newspaper editor, the editor-in-chief of my high school's newspaper, and was kind of tasked with finding the story of campus. Like, what were the stories around school? What was everyone talking about? But also, what was everyone not talking about? Like, what teacher was retiring? What was the lunch going to be changed to? Like, just really having an ear to the ground in high school and trying to figure out what were the stories that people would be interested in the school newspaper, and taking that to every asset of my jobs from now on. That genuine curiosity that I have, I just remember always asking my dad and mom a billion questions all the time. Like, I was that kid that just was like, wait, why? Or what do we have to do today as a family? Why do we have to do that? Where are we going? What is this on TV? Like, I would ask so many questions and they would be like, Jordan, please. But I turned it into a career. So they're they're very happy about it now. But that idea of storytelling really started at an early age of like, everything has a story. Everyone has a story. And really trying to capitalize on how to tell it in the best way.
Yeah. And I remember that magazine collection came in handy because you brought some in. Do you remember this?
Yes,
I
do.
Pick out like cover or big feature ideas and we would go through them and it was so much fun. But you would like, you aren't kidding about the collection. It was like a lot. And that's also going to be really nice for you to show your kids one day. Like,
oh yeah,
all those like, because there's not, I don't know, I love them too. So I read a great story about how you drove up and down the coast with your dad, handing out DVDs to various colleges. So do you mind sharing that? I thought this was such a smart move.
Yes. So coming out of high school, I wanted to play college basketball. And, coming from Sacramento and West Sac, we didn't have like the biggest, stage for women's basketball. We were doing pretty well, but really having to do a lot of guerrilla marketing and getting boots on the ground with me and my dad to really try to make these dreams happen. I also was very realistic. I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going D1. I'm not going to be the biggest basketball star ever, but there are some colleges that I do think I could play at. So my cousin put together this DVD highlight reel and we copied it on burnt disc with the cover letter. And we're like, this sounds so ancient, by the way. This was like 2012, but
it's a cool idea though. It's so smart.
So
also dedication.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to play college basketball. That was the goal. And so that's what we did. And it was a lot of, at the time, NAIA schools. So Point Loma Nazarene was one of them, Azusa. I just really wanted to stay in California, but be a little far from home and be in Southern California. So that was the goal. And we just took a little college road trip, passing them out. And Point Loma returned our call based off of that DVD. And that's how I got a scholarship to go there.
And I read the article, you were saying that the coach wasn't there that day, but you put it in his mailbox where you're like, please, like, I hope you see it.
Yeah. Nobody was there. It was during the summer. It was no one on campus. I was like, I never even heard of Point Loma. Like, I looked at a Google search just before the road trip, hadn't heard of it. And coach wasn't there. Nobody was there. Just dropped it off with like fingers crossed. And that was it. The rest is history.
Well, Point Loma is like gorgeous, but what about that school like drew you to wanting to go there?
Yeah, stunning. I mean, once we did get in contact and I went on my visit, I was like, okay, it is right on the water in San Diego. Everything has an ocean view outside of the gym doors. Like we would open the doors and it was sunset and you could just see the ocean. It was stupid. It was actually so nice. And the thing that really drew me though, because I was being recruited by other schools and they were trying to sell me on, their business major. And they're like, well, you want to be a journalist, but you got to know the business side. Like they were trying to sell me a way around being a writer and being a storyteller. And I just was not going to compromise on that. And so Point Loma had a very solid journalism program. And I got to meet with the Dean of Journalism on my visit, Dean Nelson. And I was like, I want to be a magazine editor. And he was like, we have a magazine class. And by the end, you will be able to print your own magazine. And we like really care about education here. And I was like, okay, done. You're on the water, basketball, journalism. Like it was just all the things. It was perfect. It was a perfect fit.
Wait, that's so cool. We met him, right? We went to a journalism convention together.
Yes.
Back in the day. I remember meeting him. He was great. And we did a seminar and it was so interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't know that they had like a magazine course. That's so cool. And then he also had you do a podcast. Is that right?
Yes. So that was my senior year. That was like right when podcasts really started getting hot and kind of being linked to another way of storytelling. And so I was so nervous. I was like, absolutely not. It wasn't even a class. It was just an assignment. And I recorded it in my car on my voice notes. And it was about, what was it about? I think like interview outfits, like how you should dress to an interview if you are trying to get a job. I know, because I did not want to write about sports. That's another thing. I wanted to write about anything else but sports. So it was like a 5-minute podcast of me just talking, and I just kept restarting. I was like, oh my gosh, I hate the sound of my voice. This is horrible. And I passed the assignment, but would have never guessed in my life that I would be doing podcasting for a job after doing that assignment. I was like, please get this over with. I never want to do this again. And here I am.
Oh my God. That's so cool. Also cool that you have that memory of doing it that for the first time, because I don't really think I started listening to podcasts until later, like after college.
Oh, no, I definitely wasn't listening to them. It was an assignment. It was just record your voice and here's a script that you have to do with your phone in your car, because that was the best sound. No echoes.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. But I love that you talked about fashion on it, because you also wrote about fashion and hard news, including a piece on campus marriage policies, which was really interesting. But how did you find your voice back then as a writer?
I was so encouraged by Point Loma and by the journalism department. I think I just went in without an ego and just so willing to learn. And I think I kind of came in, like I said, not wanting to write about sports, having basketball be my life since I was 5, and playing basketball 6 days a week at a college level. I was like, do not make me write about basketball. I wanted some type of escape. And that's what, like, covering arts and entertainment for the campus, or, maybe even hard news. It was just a way to not have to cover sports, like to be able for it to be separate. And I think finding my voice was being encouraged by Dean Nelson to say, like, if you can write, you can write. Like, don't say that you don't want to write about sports. Say that you want to tell stories. And that means anything. That could be whatever, because you're building the blocks and building the foundation to be a great interviewer, to be a great writer. And that doesn't have to be just for one specific topic. And once he kind of told me that, it allowed me to just open my eyes of like, okay, what are these building blocks that I'm gathering here to be able to take them into whatever that may be. And now looking at all the things that I do on camera, writing, podcasting, those building blocks of storytelling are still there. And so that was really important. And I think finding my voice through that, and also knowing that, I was at a school that was not diverse whatsoever. And how can my diverse voice be differentiated and highlighted, I think was also a stepping stone in finding my voice that way too.
Definitely. God. Well, you talked also about basketball aspect. So how did you transition from playing high school basketball into college basketball? Because I read a bit about, it was kind of like a difference.
Oh yeah. Very, very different. High school basketball was you're at the top. Like, you are at senior year in high school, like, you are untouchable. It's like the best thing ever. Being at a school like River City, and a place where they had zero success for women's basketball. And I came and was able to, get them their first conference championship. Like, it was a lot, and it was so cool. But I was so naive to think that that was somehow going to matter when you go to college and everyone was great. Like, everyone was the best player on their team. You don't matter.
No.
So it was such a reality check of like, oh, this is this is what it's like to be at a college level. And I also like Love and Basketball is my favorite movie. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be just like Monica. I'm going to be a college freshman. I'm not going to play. And then I'm going to come and take someone's spot. And then I'm going to be the hero. And like, that's how it's going to be. And no, girl, no, none of that happened. You did not play like at all.
Oh,
so
what?
it was such a wake up call of like the politics of coaching and playing time and just like other things that were not so fun. But I had to realize, you know, I could have transferred. You see now in the sports landscape, everyone's transferring. I could have done that. I could have went to another program and averaged 20 points a game, whatever. But I had to realize that I was there for something else. Like I was there for the journalism program. My best friends that I met on the first day of school were just at my baby shower 2 days ago. Like that was why I was there. And so once I realized like everything else is going right besides the basketball, and I had to find like my worth in other things outside of basketball, my identity outside of the sport I was playing. If you're not doing well at the thing you love the most, how do you combat that? Like it was really hard on top of just being in college, when college is just hard self-discovery anyway. So I had to go through all of that. And I at the end of the day, I'm so thankful for it. But when I was in it, it sucked. It really sucked.
Yeah, I was going to say like kind of a blessing in disguise that like you just put everything into your passion for storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And now I can always use that to relate. So I talk to college athletes all the time, and to be able to relate to them on that way, or just be able to talk about my experience, they're at very different levels than a Point Loma Nazarene University that I was, but it's still a tool to be able to use that. It's like, I get it. Like it's some little piece of it. I get what you're going through, and that has been able to help.
And speaking of what you were saying about like bringing your voice to the campus, they love you. I remember you went back and did like a talk or an article or something, right?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I still write for the alumni magazine, and they featured me in the alumni magazine. They featured me on the cover of one of the alumni magazines. I feel like it was a diversity poll. Like they're like, we don't have that many Black people here. Let's throw her on the cover. But I'll take it.
It's because you're talented and so freaking smart and accomplished and gorgeous. Well, after you graduated, you went to work at San Diego Magazine. You interned there, and then you went on to become the San Diego editor at Locale Magazine, which was based in Orange County. So it's cool. You've been like all over California.
Yes, I'm really nice. Huge Cali girl, but I've been from Sacramento, which is the way north, and then San Diego, and worked my way up, and now I'm in LA. And we'll see if I keep climbing up. We'll see.
Right. Yeah. Do you think you'll ever go back to Sacramento?
I mean, now that I am older and a baby on the way and married, I'm like, shoot, these housing prices aren't looking too bad in Sacramento. Like, maybe I will go back.
That's so funny. Very freaking true, though. Yeah. Well, what made you pivot from magazine editing, like we did at Locale, to sports journalism?
It was a hard pivot. It was a reality check a little bit for me of, you know, what did I want to do? You know, being a magazine editor, as we talked about, was my dream job. And I got it as my first job out of college. And it was so hard to swallow, to be like, okay, I had this whole plan of like in 10 years, I would get the title of senior editor, and I got it in 2. And so it was like, what do I do now? Like, where do I go from here a little bit? And while we were at the magazine, you know, anytime there was there was an athlete or any type of sports story to do, I would kind of volunteer, and because I was kind of the sporty girly out of all of us. It made me realize that I loved it. I love talking to athletes, and I really can relate on that level. And it allowed me to still be close without playing, because at that time I was still playing in old lady leagues, as I call them. Like, I was still very active in playing basketball because I just couldn't let it go. But this idea that I can still be close to it in some way without going to the WNBA, without playing at a high level anymore, was really appealing to me. And so going to the Ringer was a huge step, because I had to start at the bottom. Like, I was at the top of our magazine and I had to start as a fact checker, which was like a step above an intern, to be so honest with you. Like, it was the bottom. And, but while I was there, I got to read the best writing in, I feel like some of the best sports writing that is out there. Like, The Ringer, which is a national pop culture and sports website, is huge. And it was a great opportunity to be able to see how I can develop my voice as a sports writer. And I saw that they weren't covering the WNBA. And so I was like, yeah, I need to fill this hole for you guys. I want to cover the W. And that's kind of where that started too.
Yeah. So tell me about that, because you took on the initiative to pitch and write about that WNBA stories on your own time and without pay. So how did they react to that?
Yeah, they were essentially like, yeah, for sure, go ahead, but you have to do it after your shift. Like, just want to let you know, this has to come first, because this is what we hired you for. You are not a staff writer. There were other fact checkers that were writing things, and I kind of asked them, like, how are you doing it, you know, when there's downtime throughout the day? But it was very much like, your fact checking duties come first. And so any other time that I wanted to write or pitch, it would have to be outside of work hours, which were very much 9 to 5. And I was sometimes just up all hours of the night, just trying to finish a story. But I think it helped me with deadlines. I pushed me so hard to be able to be a good writer. And I think The Ringer does a really good job of thinking outside the box. Like, it wasn't just, hey, this game happened and this was the final score. It was like, what was the story of the game? Like, what were these players? What were the implications? What were some things, through line things that happened throughout the game? And it just challenged me so much to think about basketball differently. And I thought I was a sports fan, and I walked into that room and I had imposter syndrome was through the roof. I was like, oh, I know nothing about sports compared to all of these people. So it just challenged me in a really great way.
Do you feel like going, like when we were talking about when you were going from being a senior in high school to then being a freshman on basketball, like do you feel kind of like that from going senior editor to fact checker?
Yes, very much so, because I felt like there were the years that I was doing, you know, lifestyle journalism or magazine editing. These people were concentrated on sports. Like, they were doing that throughout college. This was their concentration. So it felt like I was catching up, like I was behind. And that's how it a little bit felt coming into freshman year as a basketball player, because you're like, okay, I feel like my coaches prepared me. I feel like my trainers prepared me, but it still feels like I'm a step behind, just because you don't know what to expect. You know, comparing yourself to a senior basketball player who's been in this program for 4 years, they know what to do. They know what to expect. They feel more prepared. And so that's what it was comparing it to. So for sure, it was the same thing. Yeah,
that's interesting. I feel like when those experiences happen, you're like, well, I've done this before and I can do this again. Like, it's kind of nice having that precedent.
Absolutely.
But,
yeah.
Well, you co-hosted a podcast called Spinsters, which was like a magazine and podcast form, which sounds, one, super, super cool. And two, like that sounds like a lot of work. So how did this podcast come together, and how did you guys come up with that idea?
Oh, Spinsters was such a great time. First of all, such a great name. I still love the name Spinsters. It was two single women at the time doing a podcast about basketball, and Spinsters was a perfect title for it. So I had left The Ringer, and this is my co-host was Haley O'Shaughnessy, who I met through The Ringer. She was working there, an incredible sports journalist. I loved how she approached sports. It was such a unique way. You know, she would be talking about zodiac signs of NBA players and why that would possibly be an impact of their game or team chemistry. Like, it was so unique in the way that she saw the game. And so she said, you know, she had a new job. She also left The Ringer. And she was like, yeah, you know, I'm starting a new podcast, and we are doing just some testers for me to just get used to hosting. Nobody's going to listen to this. Like, we're just going to be chatting. And, you know, do you have free time? And I was like, sure. I had just started a new job, and that was not journalism related. It was a startup. And I was like, yeah, no problem. We did that. We talked about the NBA. I felt very relaxed because I felt like nobody was going to hear this. It didn't feel like an audition or anything like that. And then she comes back a couple of days later and she's like, yeah, so everybody heard it and we want you to be the co-host. I know so we did not talk about this at all. Here's what you get paid. Here's the commitment. And I was like, Haley, I just started a new job. Like, what the heck? How am I going to be able to do this? But we made it work. Like, I would record super early in the mornings before hitting LA traffic and going to my job. And then
you kept the job.
I kept the job. So I had a full-time job and was doing the podcast. That was twice a week. And it was crazy. And like you said, it was a magazine podcast. So we would have you know, talking about and it was mostly NBA. We talked about the WNBA a little bit, but we would talk about the games. So I would also have to watch the games and talk about the players, talk about the news. And then we had these really cool scripted narrative episodes that had sound and were edited so heavily. And we would get interviews to do them. And it was like doing an article, but an audio format. And it challenged me so much to be able to write the script and write the questions for the sound bites, because you needed to know just exactly how you do for a written article, the type of quotes that you need, and to have it be their own voices. And they came out so great. And it was so fun to be able to dive into that. And we felt like nobody was doing anything like that around sports. And that's why that show was so successful, because it mixed so many different things, but it really highlighted me and Haley's strengths as writers first, to be able to storytell in this audio format. So it was awesome. It was a great time.
I'd also like to side note that you also went back to school to learn about podcasting.
Oh yeah.
Which, God,
just a class. I don't want it to be. It was a class at a JC, and it was like
that's still so cool,
but it was still helpful. It was just this idea that I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn more about podcasting, because I realized that it is where you can make money, and I got an intro of that at The Ringer, which now The Ringer is owned by Spotify and is a audio network, essentially, because of the podcast success that they have. And with Spinsters, I was like, okay, this feels like somehow this is where the industry is going. And I took that one podcast assignment in class, not even now they have a class at Point Loma, but before that was not a thing. So yeah, I just wanted to learn a little bit more.
That's so inspiring, though. I always say I'm going to do that, and I never do it. I need to freaking do it. Okay, so
you should take classes at your JCs. They're cheap and they're really great.
Yes. Well, so you started co-hosting Queens of the Court with WNBA MVP and 4-time league champion Sheryl Swoopes, and that's now transitioned into the Women's Hoop Show, as I mentioned before. So, can you talk about how the show came together, and then why the new transition?
Yeah, it's a dream come true. I mean, I pitched a WNBA show to The Ringer before I left, and it wasn't as big as it is now. And I don't know if the people there really saw the vision, but now to be able to be approached by Odyssey, which is, really big in radio, for them to say, we want a WNBA show and we want you to host it. And who do you want to be your co-host? Like it felt like a dream. Like I wanted to be able to have a platform to talk about the WNBA, and I felt like I began to carve out a lane for myself in the years prior to that, to show that I want to be the person that people go to when it's WNBA, when it's women's basketball. So to be asked to do that opportunity was incredible. And it was, I interviewed Sheryl for a different freelancing story months before, and I barely talked about basketball. I talked about how she has a homestead and she gardens and she's so cool, and they grow all their own food. And that's what we talked about. And she was so happy that we didn't talk about basketball. We could talk about other things. And so we brought that same energy to the show, and it was a super success. And we were partnership with the WNBA. So it was the first official podcast for the WNBA. Wow. And, with that comes with incredible name recognition and to be able to have that stamp. But it turned into that we also have to, as we're talking about the league, we have to critique the league. We have to, we are the biggest fans of the league, that we have to kind of, be honest about what's going on in the league. And of course they're like, what the heck? Don't do that. And we're like, we have to. So that was kind of the transition to a new name of the Women's Hoop Show. And so now we talk about college, the other leagues that are popping up around America for women's basketball, and the WNBA. So it didn't just have to be during WNBA season, and it didn't just have to be about the WNBA. So it really expanded that conversation. And we have rotating co-hosts now. So Sheryl still comes on, but we have other journalists and other notable names in the space that come on and talk to me about basketball. So it's super fun.
Jordan, you're so cool. I'm so proud of you. Like everything that you're saying, I'm like, what? This isn't that's so cool. I just remember working, and if our 20-year-old selves could see us now,
I know.
Really now, I don't know what mine would say, but that's just amazing. Okay, so you did a women's sports radio show for Odyssey called She's Got Next with Jordan Robinson. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so that came about because I'm already in the Odyssey realm, and they were, just feeling like this explosion of women's sports and women's sports coverage, and more fans, more eyes, more attention, more investment in women's sports than ever before. And it's a little bit like, I told you so. I told you guys it's coming. I knew it, but I'm so happy to be a recipient of those investments. And one of those is a radio show where I kind of took a spot where football, during the off season, that's typically where football is being talked about. They kind of slotted me in there, and it was the first women's sports radio show for Odyssey. And I just got to interview all of these super cool athletes, all different sports of golf, soccer, tennis, flag football, like all across the women's sports spectrum, to be able to spotlight their sport, give people, the guys listening to sports radio in the car. I got so many great messages of like, oh, we're on my way to our daughter's volleyball game and we heard you on the radio, and it was the volleyball interview and now she's following them. Like all of those little moments make me so happy, because that's what it is about. And we just finished season 1, and hopefully to bring back season 2 quickly after Super Bowl. But there's just so many stories out there to be told in women's sports world. And it was fun to of course I talked about basketball, but to be expanding outside of basketball to all the sports. So it was great.
Yeah. That's so cool to get to learn about different types of sports. Well, you also have done a lot of on-camera work, from Game On to Buckets 5. So what do you love about hosting a live segment versus a written piece or a podcast?
Oh man, live TV is so hard. Every single time I do it, I'm like, why?
You're such a natural though.
Okay, but I am way too anxious of a person. And every time that I do it, I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Like, actually. So I got my first TV, anything on camera was for Jordan Brand. And I did a series with them in 2021 called Take It From LA, where it was a dream come. Everything that you could imagine, just being dressed in Nike and Jordan Brand and being able to talk to people. It was amazing. And I said, I have never done this before. I don't know if I can do this again, because there is about 50 people behind a camera just all watching you, see if you can get your lines right. And it was so nerve-wracking. And I remember the director, who's a friend of mine, he was like, yeah, you're going to do this. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're going to be doing this for a long time. I was like, really? And since then, I have been on camera, and it has been another way for me to tell stories. That's all I say. I'm like, if you want to put a camera, a microphone, a pen and paper, I don't care what you put in front of me. I'm going to talk about women's basketball. And so just figure out what medium you want me to do it in. And I got you. That's how the Pac-12 network came up. That's how Buckets, Women's Sports Network, all of those things were, people taking a chance on me because I was so new. I do not have a broadcast journalism background. But they saw the passion and that I know my stuff. And they said, we can teach you TV stuff. We can teach you what it's like to have a producer in your ear. We can count you out to commercial break, count you in. Everything's live. We can figure it out. You've never done highlights before? That's fine. We'll teach you how to do it. And I'm so thankful for those people taking a chance, because without that, I wouldn't have the practice to be able to do it. But taking that chance to say, we see the passion and your personality and all of those things that you possess that we don't want you to change. We could hire a professional host, but they probably don't know much about basketball as you do. And so being able to marry both of those things together has been so cool. And I'm so thankful that they took a chance on me. So it's been fun. Yeah. So nerve-wracking every single time, but it's still a lot of fun.
No, I literally see like a talk show in your future, like a WNBA sports like talk show.
Chelsea,
like right. I know. I'm manifesting it. I can see it.
Please,
and also, you were traveling like 4 days a week for 13 weeks straight for Pac-12's tailgate. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a wild time. That was one of those opportunities that you say, yeah, I can do this. And then you're like, okay, that was a one-time thing. And I look back and I say, that was so fun, but there's no way in hell I'm doing that again. Pac-12 Tailgate was a pre-show to college football Saturdays. And so we would go to every single Pac-12 school, and I would get there on a Wednesday. We would do sit-down interviews. I was trying all these different sports. I did lacrosse. I did basketball. I did pole vaulting. I did all these different sports because it was just funny to see me try. And while also interviewing the people who were actually good at the sports and spotlighting them, we got to interview other people on campus. It was basically just like telling the stories on campus. And then on Saturday morning, before the game, I would be at tailgate and interviewing the fans that were at tailgate. And then I would toss to those things that I had done earlier in the week. But I was there for Wednesday to Saturday, and I just got married, and I was like, my name's Jordan, husband. Sorry, I've never been here because I have been gone for months. But it was so much fun. But it took a lot out of you. Like, it was a lot to be up and on camera for that many days and still have other work to do and squeeze in like those other 2 days. But it was awesome. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity, especially because the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore as we know it. It kind of imploded. So that was an extra special time because it was like the last hurrah for the Pac-12. So yeah.
Well, also amazing that you're trying different sports. I tried pickleball once and tore my Achilles. So I'm like,
oh no, wait, pickleball's kind of fun. I just tried pickleball.
It was fun for 15 minutes and then I know, but so on brand. Well, you've covered everyone from LeBron James to 91-year-old Grace Larson. Do you have a favorite interview or moment that stuck with you?
Oh my gosh, this is the hardest question. I mean, you prepped me with these questions. I still couldn't give you an answer. It's so hard. I mean, you mentioned 91-year-old Grace Larson. That was a story about an 80 and up league in San Diego, where I think about these women often because I finished my book that's on the history of women's basketball called Court Queens. And
wait, you wrote a book?
I did write a book. Yes.
What? I got in the research. That's so cool.
I did write a book. It's incredible and it's amazing and it's out in March. But we go back to the 1800s to when women's basketball first started being played. And I just think about, those women that I interviewed who were just saying how we couldn't play basketball like it's played now back then. So we're getting our first shot at it at 70 years old. It was just so great. I loved everything about that. But I would say I can't pick. It's impossible. I think about those early stories that I did. Nafisa Collier winning Rookie of the Year was like my first feature story for The Ringer. And after just like pitching listicles to get a feature story, it was like such a big deal for me. So just because that started something special in me and going to games and having my first press pass at a Sparks game, like that was such a big moment for me. So maybe I'll say that one just because it started everything like I do now.
I love that. And also, congratulations on the book. That's literally amazing. You've now done like every aspect of storytelling. That's so incredible.
Thank you.
Well, you've been very open about living with type 1 diabetes. Can you talk a little bit about your partnership with JDRF?
Yeah. So I, once I got an agent, I told him that, I want to use my platform and use my skills as a host, moderator, writer to be able to spotlight diabetes research. And so I started kind of moderating panels and doing community work with JDRF, which is now called Breakthrough T1D. And I've been able to share my story after not really talking about it for a long time, but it is very much a part of me and my daily life. And so it's been so fun to be able to marry my journalistic background to be able to talk about my story as a type 1 diabetic, and then also interview and facilitate conversation with doctors and other people with type 1 and educators to be able to get it out there in any way possible. I also work with Beyond Type 1 Diabetes. I've been doing those panels like in person. And I just made it an emphasis that I really want to use my voice in this way. And it feels so great to be around other T1Ds and to be able to, just use my skill set to be able to talk about the other important things outside of sports. So to be able to use it in any other way. So it's been great.
That's amazing. And also I am manifesting that one day you interview Nick Jonas.
I know.
That's open, right?
I was like, I knew that was why I loved Nick growing up. Yeah, right? We were both type 1s.
Well, you mentioned your amazing book that comes out in March. Is there anything else you would like to shout out for listeners to keep an eye out for? Are you doing a book tour or anything like that?
Oh, yes. Well, I will have just had a baby. So I will have my real human baby and then my baby of my book all at the same time around. But I will, just be posting about it like crazy. So make sure to follow along. And so you can get the pre-order link in a couple weeks, we're going to be dropping that. So that'll be really exciting. And then, right now it's the WNBA finals all the way through the end of the month. So make sure to listen to the Women's Hoop Show as we are covering that multiple times a week. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got to plug. It's all fun stuff.
Amazing. Well, I will be buying your book. I cannot wait for that pre-order link to come in. But we are coming to the end of our time. But before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So first, what would you tell your younger self knowing what you know now?
I would tell her to believe in yourself, like bet on yourself. I think as a freelancer, it's really important that you realize that you are your work. Like you are what people are wanting to pay for. And it's your skill set and everything that you bring to a project. And so I think I was really shy about that at first. Like, wonder if I'm not enough, or wonder if I can't make enough, or wonder if I can't be enough. And I have dispelled all of those thoughts by just being myself. And so that's what I would tell my young. If I figured that out earlier, it would be so many things would have been avoided. So yes, I would go back and tell her that.
I love that. And then what skills have you developed from the challenges that you've overcome?
Oh, I think the skill of adaptability, going back to those early days of being a freshman at Point Loma and playing basketball and knowing that I wasn't getting the playing time that I thought I deserved. Like all of that still comes full circle with how I get jobs, or if I don't get jobs, if I get passed on, or I do an audition and I don't get it. All of those things are skill sets. And I call back to so many things. I call back to all of my previous lives. I feel like we've talked about all my work lives. I call back to all of them on a daily, weekly basis when I'm accepting new projects or I'm passing on projects. I'm like, well, I've done that before, so we're not going down that road again. Like all of that is valuable information. And I think the skill of like, I have said yes as a novice before and I've survived it. So we can do it again. And I think I lean on that so much as a freelancer. So it's helped a lot.
Yeah. And then lastly, what is one key takeaway that you hope listeners get from this conversation?
I hope you take away that the world of, I guess, don't pigeonhole yourself. Like that's what I felt like I was doing early on in my career, or when I dreamt of my career. I was like, I'm going to be a magazine editor that only writes about this one thing. And I'm going to move to New York and it'll be this fashion magazine thing. And not to say like that could have happened, but I think by opening my mind to, okay, I want to do sports, and within sports, it's writing a book. It's doing a weekly podcast. It's being on camera to talk about sports. It's like, there's so many things that could happen if you open your mind to different possibilities, to say yes to different things. If you are like so razor focused on one thing, not saying that one thing will not be amazing, but there could be other things that are happening. Like I'm pitching TV shows about women's basketball. Like there's so many things outside of just a bubble that you can achieve if you are like open to trying it. And do I have experience pitching TV shows? No, but because I've never had experience on camera and I did that, then I know I can do other things. So I hope that that's what you take away. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, I did. And got like, first of all, that's so cool. You're pitching TV shows. Would you be producing, directing, or acting? Or
God, I would be producing. Yeah. No.
Okay.
Not
Oh my God, it's so cool.
Maybe a cameo of me like sweeping the court back.
Oh my God. Well, I can't wait to watch that. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I feel so lucky to get to know you and have gotten to work with you. And I cannot wait to see like where your incredible journey of your career takes you next.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun going down memory lane. I appreciate it.